If I were to tell you that I have some life-altering physical illness, maybe like asthma, arthritis, diabetes, heart problems, or even cancer, and due to that I can't go out and do the things that I normally want to do because things have been really hard on me, what would you say? You might say that you completely understand and you support my decision and won't push me to do anything that I don't want to do. You might also offer any services you might have to make sure that I get to feeling better soon enough. People understand that with things like this, when things hit a pretty severe point, things can be really hard. And so they go out of their way to show their love and support and help their loved ones get better. So why is it that when people like me reach a point like this, we get treated differently? We're told to walk it off, to stop complaining, and to not be such a downer, simply because the problem behind it is something like an anxiety disorder, a mood disorder, or a chronic pain disorder. There's a statistic out there that says 1 in 4 people are diagnosed with at least one mental health problem. That's a lot of people, and yet the way that we talk about mental illnesses and invisible illnesses in general is pretty horrible. Whether we mean to or not, what with the things that we say and do and think, we are constantly feeding into this vicious cycle. I have been known to do it, and I'm a person with invisible illnesses. So, what can we do to break this cycle? How can we all become better allies to those with invisible illnesses? In this video, I'm going to be going over that and explaining 5 things not to say when talking about invisible illnesses. Pretty much anything that uses an invisible illness to describe yourself or others, especially if you haven't been diagnosed with the thing that you're talking about, saying things like this in the context they're normally used in aren't only incredibly inaccurate and invalidating, but takes away and changes the way that people view the destructive and complicated lives that come with invisible illnesses. Instead of being seen as the awful, unwanted things that they are, people are turning them into cute quirks and jokes and fashion statements, and why do we do this? Have you tried drinking more water? Have you tried yoga? And everybody's favorite, you create your own reality. No, just like how a person with heart problems can't really create their own reality on a whim, we can't change our illness. That's why it's called an illness. And if the way to healing were drinking more water and getting in more exercise, believe me, we would all be doing it. In reality, the path to healing doesn't even lead to full healing sometimes. It includes repressing the symptoms with a constant cycle of treatment. But you don't seem that bad, sometimes followed with, are you sure it's not all in your head? Okay, so that's the thing about invisible illnesses. They're called that because they're invisible. Only when they become severe enough are they more public. And if they're people like me, then they're pretty darn good at hiding their symptoms for the fear of seeming like an attention seeker or coming off as a burden. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean that it isn't real, and it doesn't mean that it isn't painful. Things could be worse. I understand how reassuring you're trying to be, and while I appreciate it, saying things like this isn't as reassuring as you might hope. When you say things like this, you're taking our vulnerability and telling us that unless we're dying, we shouldn't be complaining. Just because it's a different kind of hurt doesn't mean that it isn't hurt, because in the end, all pain is painful. So why are we fighting over who has the worst pain? If somebody's coming to you for help, help them in the best way that you can, even if it's just listening. I know how you feel. Unless you've been diagnosed with the same thing, it's pretty unlikely that you know exactly how we feel. Now, you might be able to imagine it, and you might have experienced something similar for 2 to 3 days. That is completely true, and I'm not invalidating that at all. But unless you have been through the same daily cycles that these invisible illnesses can bring, saying that you understand is putting our problems into a smaller light, and sometimes saying that everybody deals with these things, and if we can get over it, you can too. When in reality, they're not things that everybody deals with. Not everybody has to deal with daily panic attacks. Not everybody has to deal with depression so bad getting out of bed is nearly impossible. Not everybody has to deal with chronic pain so bad they can't even walk to the mall. Not everybody has to deal with perfecting your cleaning skills so much to the point that it takes you 2 to 3 times as long to finish them. So again, if you don't really understand what that's like, the best thing you can do is just listen. That in its own is a great way to support people who need it, because not everybody takes the time to listen. So I hope that this has cleared up a few things, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me in the description box. You can see how to do that. Also, feel free to add to this list, whether in the comments or sending it to my Tumblr. I love hearing from you guys, and hopefully maybe one day I can make a part 2 for this if there are enough suggestions. Until next time.